The reason why we need a kind of affirmative action is just to encourage.
Why is it to encourage? Why is it not to standardize as a prerequisite to say in our society, at all costs, certain amount of women should be able to run for elections?
You just have to encourage because the barriers, the hurdles are very daunting. They may not have the tenacity that a man has. It has to do with availability of resources. How many women can lose hundreds of millions in an electoral contest and still dust herself up in another election and say, I'll contest again? Because of empowerment issue, economic empowerment is not equal in terms of skill set. If you belong to Old Boys Association and you are running for politics, they can do fundraiser for you. Even in a WhatsApp group overnight, you can get 100 million, 500 million. How many women enjoy such privileges? It's an age-long discrimination we've had against women.
Many thanks for joining in. This is Matters That Truly Matter. Well, we'll try to uncover the significant conversations as we have them in the society. Some would say even very, very obvious in the population. Ideas around agriculture, shrinking civic space, women participation in politics. These are some of the ideas that continue to be part of our lives. Some treat them as minor ideas, even though they have major implications to the growing society and the future of the country, Nigeria. And today, we want to explore pretty much women participation in politics in every right of it. And yes, I have two wonderful guests that will be speaking and explaining and sharing ideas from challenges to solutions they really see as the way forward. I'm Femi D. Amele. And yes, I must also say that we're proudly supported in this effort to get this communication done through the HBS Foundation. And yes, this is produced by Vibing Brands. Fine Radio Co. is the leading partner for this. Our distribution partner remains Volume Pods. And yes, so here we are, women participation. Many of you would recall not too long ago the stories that have been built up from the last election. And I'm really anxious to share that with you shortly after I tell you about my guest. One of our guests today is Jide Ojo. Yes, Jide Ojo is a wonderful man. He has been in the development sector for nothing less than 15 years, if I would say. He attended the University of Ibadan, studied political science at master's level, and surely University of Lagos as well for his first degree. He's worked extensively as a development worker from organizations from 1998 till now, from the likes of International Foundation for Electoral System, UNDP. He has also worked with USID and quite a number of organizations. You can imagine his portfolio in the development sector from 1998 till date. And yes, he's been kind enough to provide us with some ideas, solutions, and his view on women participation. Also joining in today is Vanessa Udegbe Gregory. She is an accomplished sustainable development professional with a proven track record in leading impactful programs across Nigeria and, of course, around the world. Her excellent ability to work in a way that provides design, delivery, and management and project management continues to stand out. And yes, she does this by projecting even our passion along the lines of women and all that have to do with women political participation. And yes, all that sustainably being done. And yes, she holds quite a number of accomplishments, including a biomedical engineering degree, a master's level, I must say, from the University of Sheffield. And yes, she is advancing the world of gender advocacy, as one would say, and equity as much as I can. You both are welcome to the program.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's start off with a story many of us may be familiar with. It's been interesting to just talk about women participation in politics, and sometimes people say they don't want to, they do want to. But I want to start, Vanessa, with your view around the story that happened in Kaduna State, during the build-up to the 2023 election. The women leader for the Labour Party assassinated. And one would almost say it's in politics, these things happen. But I can imagine the number of women that would rethink rejoining the world of politics just because of that single incident, and not to now talk of other incidents. What was your evaluation and what went through your mind, and what would you say that space has been like from that very development?
So I would agree that it's had impact on women deciding whether to come out, to participate in politics. And you did mention politics is a dirty, violent game, and especially for women, because intrinsically, naturally, we're not, according to the world, we're not supposed to partake in such acts or be seen to be doing things that would perpetrate the ways of men. So a lot of time when we look at the situation and the fallout from that, I do say yes, the effect is a lot more women probably are afraid of coming out. And it has a lot to do with who's going to look after my children. You know, they have a lot more to lose, quote unquote, if they suffer in the same way that this lady suffered. So I think there is a reduction in the coming out, but I also don't think it should be so much of a deterrent, because again, you did mention there is violence in politics, be it male or female. So I think your passion for changing the country, or even as small as your local government or your environment, should be stronger than the possibilities of violence, because at the end of the day, you could be walking down the street and get kidnapped in Nigeria of today. It's not like you are safe, regardless of what you do. You could be hit by a car. There's so many things that can happen to a person, regardless of gender. But if you have that passion and that will to change your space or Nigeria as a whole, I don't think you should push it down just because of fear.
And it reminds me of a book I read about a woman who participated in politics, where she said love is not enough. And you're talking about passion. And I'm looking at the elections we've had in Nigeria. And this question also, I will swing to Jide on this. You know, when women try to evaluate why they should participate in politics, for example, do you think that has changed with every build-up of elections? We saw some level of participation when 2015, where we're almost saying, oh, okay, even without some sort of guiding law, there seems to be now ready. The evaluation by women, everyday women, to say, I will participate in politics, not just this election, not the next election, maybe in the years to come. What do you think is some of the things that guide and their decision, right, on whether they should or not participate in politics?
So I think there's many factors. So we can talk about the, again, I think it starts with passion, because regardless of what we might say, the two genders are biologically different. They also think differently. So it can be a thing. A lot of times when you read up about like women's leadership and stuff, you find that in when you have a women leader, quote unquote, not in the sense of political parties, but a woman that's a leader, the healthcare thrives. You know, there's certain aspects of society that thrive, which are the things that are important to women at large. So it could be something as simple as, you know, listening to the women in her vicinity and the problems, and her knowing that if I was up there, I could change this. You know, it's just, I think it comes down to passion and that will to want to help out in your local environment. So.
And Jide, I mean, just to put this also to you with regards to the choices, the barriers, the challenges that women want to take. It's one thing to be passionate, it's one thing to even be inclined to. But when you look at the internal politics and process of some political parties, the woman would ask herself, where does she jump in? Where's the fence the lowest? These are visible questions that one would wonder about the internal party structures that we have in Nigeria. There are more political parties that are building up now, but one would also wonder about where does she come in? Should the gates be left open? Does she have to jump over hurdles and internal processes in order to be able to say, okay, this is better than the election before?
Thank you, Femi. One thing we need to understand that there are no easy right in politics, whether you are a man or a woman. So men, you wonder whether they had a vision to do politics, because they've lost so many times. So many times they've been threatened, some have had their, I mean, look at US. two lawmakers in is it Arizona or Wisconsin. Someone just went
Yeah.
shot.
Kill them, their homes.
Yeah. So it's the ground is never level when you come to politics because it's very juicy. It's like a business venture. You want to do business and very successful in that business. You must be ready. You cannot lose guard. That's just even though I quite understand patriarchy has been it's been a barrier, a limiting factor for women, but if you take a consensus and what some men have gone through, you wonder why are they so stubborn at it? You heard of somebody like Abraham Lincoln who failed 30 years. 30 years he was trying and was failing, he was trying and was failing. That was in US. I mean, opportunities were there. He was not a black man. So you won't say it's because of racism that he was failing. But he was so focused, he was so convinced that this is his calling somewhat. Even for lower offices he lost before he became president. So the same you could see for Nigerians, if you take a census of men who contest elections, you find out that 80 to 90% of them failed. Those who succeed is the people we celebrate. However, the reason why we need a kind of affirmative action is just to encourage. So many things have
Why is it to encourage? Why is it not to standardize as a prerequisite to say in our society, at all costs, certain amount of women should be able to run for election? It's one thing to have it as a standard, it's another thing not to have the women available to run if that's the case. But why should it be to encourage? Why should it be as part of a standard process?
You just have to encourage because the barriers, the hurdles are very daunting. And women being, I don't want to use weaker vessel or stuff, they may not have the tenacity that a man has because it has to do with availability of resources. How many women can lose hundreds of millions in an electoral contest and still dust herself up in another election and say, I'll contest again? Take, for instance, Atiku Abubakar has been contesting for the presidency of Nigeria since 1991. 1991. He's been there over 30 years. And this man is not tired and he's approaching 80 and he has lost so much. Do you know, even 2023 alone, did you hear of any PDP fundraiser? The man bankrolled more or less his own election. But how many women can lose that and still say, I will do it again and again? Because of empowerment issue. Economic empowerment is not equal. And you know, again, it's an age-long discrimination we've had against women. Even in terms of education, we still battle with girl child education, particularly in northern Nigeria, where the girl child is mostly, they form larger bunch of out-of-school children. But even in the south, you find out that in a family of four, three boys and one girl, even if the girl is the number one child, the father will prefer to send the boys to school because of this mentality that at the end of the day, she will marry off. So when you look at that lopsidedness in terms of economic empowerment, in terms of skill set, and in terms of ability to even get support from the social circles. If you belong to Old Boys Association and you are running for politics, they can do fundraiser for you. Even in a WhatsApp group overnight, you can get 100 million, 500 million. We've seen men that a friend would just say, I'm paying for your nomination form. But how many women enjoy such privileges? And so the bottom line, why we need to encourage, why we need to have this reserve seat, because I've also traveled extensively. I know what happened in Uganda, where the constitution exclusively said there are certain seats that are reserved majorly for women, and it's in all of the districts in Uganda. So why people condemn Uganda, for instance, and say, oh, Yoweri Museveni has been there for 35 years, is going to die in office. But when you look at the parliament, parliament of Uganda is very plural, because there are this reserve seat which women enjoy. And when you talk of reserve seat, it's not like there will be no contest. It's not like it's Baba Sokwe or one father has said, this is Vanessa, is the next senator. It still has to be contested. There will still be primaries, there will still be election. And then, what I saw, Section 78 of the Ugandan Constitution, which also talks about reserves it for even for persons with disability, for labor unions, for military, armed forces. They have 10 seats.
So that means it is highly systemized. And this is me bringing Vanessa to jumping into this. That means it's highly systemized. But even at that, in a country like Nigeria, and Jide, I do get your point. I want to come back to you to even explain more. But even in Nigeria, what looks like it is not systemized in itself as a system. So sorry, I have to say it that way. One would do say, for example, that it's not today that we've heard of laws that guide 35% reserve seat. We have 50% women who can vote in any direction they want in an election. The choice to do so is there. But I wonder about if the word encouragement, and Jide, this is not me picking on you, but if the word encouragement is part of a flaw in how we approach systemizing the opportunities for women. I don't know how you do see it when you think about the policies that allow them to excel, even if we're dealing with policies only. How do you think we're systemizing by not systemizing? I don't know if that even makes any sense.
I think I understand what you're trying to say. So I am inclined to agree that the phrasing of these things can have an effect on whether they are put into effect. So, for example, we call it the additional seats bill, but more commonly used now is the special seats bill. And there's now a problem with the name special seats, because some male lawmakers are saying what makes these seats special and not our seats. So why are these special seats? So
wait, for those who don't know what that is, do you mind stepping back a little bit to explain how the concept of special seats started off?
So going back a little bit, it's the same thing that Mr. Jide was talking about. It's about giving seats to women, so seats that only a woman can occupy. So it's been put on for the new constitution so that there is an additional 1 seat per
district,
per state for women in the Senate and an additional 3 at the House of Reps. But those seats can only be occupied by women, So, but like Mr. Jide said, you will run for elections, you will be elected into that seat, but all your opposition would be women, so you would run against fellow women in your states. So that's what the additional seats, the special seats, that's what it means. But now we've come to the point where it's called additional seats. Now it's been put as the special seats, but there's opposition because why is it a special seat? So, and we come to a thing of where we are becoming quite tokenistic for women, going back to how many women can afford to fund their own campaigns, So why don't we take it fundamental? A lot of people cannot afford to fund their political campaigns, because this takes it back to, if I have spent 300 million running across, let's say, 2 election cycles, and I finally managed to gain that position, I'm getting my 300 million back first and foremost. That's the first thing
Sounds like a business system.
Yeah, so that's literally the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to recoup my money. If I have a 4-year term and it takes me 3.5 years to get my money back, I'm going to do that. It's just human nature. You need to recoup your losses. So rather than saying, we give women free nomination forms or other tokenistic measures, let's focus on the fundamental issues of decreasing the cost of politics. So you hear about the cost of these nomination forms and you wonder, okay, I understand it goes into funding the parties, but there must be other ways to fund the parties. It shouldn't cost this much to run an election. It's not sustainable for anybody, so.
No, you're going on. I was asking about systemizing by not systemizing, yeah? And you were responding to that along the lines of the fact that nomination funds, which is a very good place to even push into the issue of the party component of their journey. We're talking about their arrival now, right? And if you're in the race and you're in the race long enough, you possibly can arrive on a due date to start recouping. But there's a political party as well to run through. And Jide, it is interesting to say that the last set of election in Nigeria, for example, I think that was 2023 election, a lot of parties, they put up, and I would say it's public relations materials that indicated that they are gravitating towards a system that allows a woman better opportunity. For example, the nomination form. Yes, still expensive, but it was not as pricey as that of the man. And they'll say, oh, that's something they did. A lot of the parties also put forward the front that, oh, for certain positions, right, in terms of the leadership of the party, this woman, that woman, I think I can think of the APC, structured in such a way that, oh, women this, young people this. I'm not sure of the other parties. But it makes me also wonder about responsiveness of political parties we have in Nigeria. Right now, we have 19. I know there are other people applying one way or the other, which would make me go to Vanessa if there should be a women party at some point in time. So I have that at the corner of my eye. But just to get your understanding of the point of responsiveness or structure on which parties are being put forward to say, we're responsive and responsible to allow women to, is that real or is that a facade?
Yeah. Let me not be categorical, but let me give you an illustration.
Okay.
From what I learned, if you look at South Africa, they do not have affirmative action in the South African Constitution, but they have it in the ANC Constitution, and they have respected it. And over time, you've seen exponential growth in the number of women in South African Parliament. But our political parties in Nigeria are only supporting women with slogans, what I would call sloganeering. You see, PDP will say, oh, we are all for, in fact, we have a women directorate, we have a women department. APC will say same. And for me, if only they practice what they preach, we will not be in this coup d'etat. Do you know, way back, 2006 was when we first have gender policy, national gender policy. 2006, that was under Obasanjo. How many presidents has come thereafter? The closest we have ever had in terms of appointive that crossed the 30% mark was under Goodluck Jonathan, and it was for a short-lived period. As a he for she, even in my column, I've taken up even the current president up on his promise, just like Muhammadu Buhari said, that they were going to give women 35% in affirmative in appointive position. Now, this is, for me, the driver. If only the party are committed, we don't even need this constitution. Because, sincerely speaking, even if today, with the constitutional alteration that is going on, we decided to have independent candidacy, it does not favor women. You know why? Independent candidacy is even going to make it tough for a woman to win. Because you are without structure. You are on your own. The party will not throw its weight behind you. There will be no party members to help you do volunteer work. So you have to pay for everything. In fact, from the starting point will be to collect signature. You have to collect signature, certain number of signature across the constituency where you are contesting. And so they will be you out of the race. So it's better to sanitize our party system. And that's why I feel our presidents and governors have not done enough. Because with the kind of influence that Nigerian president, and I don't want to just say this particular one, that particular, if a president can get a party chairman out of office at the snap of a finger, can't he, at the snap of a finger, say, I want 35% representation in the National Working Committee of the party? Because it starts from there. Why should a party with 25 NWC member have only 2 or 3 women. That is where it starts. Because if all the position you get is national woman leader, deputy national woman leader, and maybe assistant financial secretary.
And welfare. Welfare is always...
Well, I don't know. Yeah. So, but assuming that the president will use his clout and said, no, I'm an he for she. Party chairman, this next convention we're having, PDP is having its convention maybe sometimes before now or next month. APC is scheduled its national convention for December. Assuming the president, being the leader of APC, decides, meet with the National Working Committee and say, hey, we've marginalized women for too long. Let's do something to support them. Ahead of this convention, I want to see us respecting this national gender policy, which has also been reviewed. Was it last year or 2 years ago? There is now a revised version of that national gender policy, which is a policy that is being driven by the Ministry of Women Affairs. So, but you see, none so deaf as those who will not hear. And that's why it may be sexy to promote law reform, have this in the law, have that in the law. The big elephant is always implementation. I've always cited this example, even this morning while I was one of my media interviews, I was citing the example of the alteration of constitution 2 times in 2018 and 2023. We altered the constitution to give financial autonomy to state judiciary and state houses of assembly. Femi, go and do your check. The governors have ignored. They've not implemented.
Yeah.
That's the constitutional alteration too. They first did when they did the constitution, the 2018 alteration, they said, it wasn't comprehensive enough. This is not implementable. They repeated it. National Assembly in the 9th Assembly decided to further alter to give financial autonomy to state house of assembly and state judiciary. But 2023 to date, then look at Supreme Court decision on local government autonomy. July 11, a year now, that decision was given by the apex court. Has it been obeyed? Are local government getting their funding directly from the federation account? So, you see, and that's why, while Obama came to Accra 20 and was saying we need strong institutions and not strong men. You need both. You need both strong men and strong institutions.
Strong men who are he for she.
Yes. Mr. President put his support behind his wife. That was why she was three times a senator in Lagos. She is not originally from Lagos. She is just married to him. But he put his clout, and that was not done in his governorship. He has served that his term in 2007 before he allowed his wife to go into Senate.
But you just used the phrase allowed.
Yes, allowed, because he could have said, you had him during the campaign. I recall when he said, Senator Oluremi Tinubu served that last year. During the campaign, she said, after this term, please, I want my wife back. I don't want her to go to the Senate. So if he has said, you can't go, Remi, there's no way Remi will have become a senator. But look at Folashade Bent, that represented Adamawa, either north, south, or central. She's from Ilesha. She's from Osun State. But her husband is from Adamawa. And the husband was able to flip and made her a senator in Adamawa while she's originally from Osun. So the issue of support system comes handy. But let me not lose sight of the question you asked, which is this party system. How stifling our party has been. Because when you look at the constitution of the party, they say, we are all in support of women. Some will put 35%. They will put but when the time for nomination comes, even the tokenism of free, I recall that Uju Ohaneye, that was later made the Minister of Women Affairs, was the only female aspirant, presidential aspirant ahead of 2023 under APC. She paid 2 million. The fund was sold for 100 million. But they said just pay expression of interest. That was what APC collected. Expression of interest, pay 2 million. But who was the first to step down at Igu Square? She was the first to say, I'm stepping down for Mr. President. And of course, it was a trade-off. She stepped down when they were making ministerial nominee. She is from Anambra. The president said, this lady that stepped down for me, where is she? She became minister. If she had managed her portfolio well, maybe she would have still been there rather than just 1 year minister. But that is also part of the challenge. We also don't have enough women. There are women, but we don't have enough women that can carry on their conviction, that can manage failure because of economic factor. Recall that I said we were both at Cost of Politics public presentation by WFD a couple of days back, and we learned during presentation, the guy that led the research said a man, one of the people they interviewed to get the cost of policy, said he lost 500 million to contest a ticket and still did not get that ticket. Can a woman lose 500 million and still come back in 4 years?
Well, maybe somebody that you know could always get such funds from you. But okay. You've really put up you put up a brilliant argument around the challenge. But one of the key things you said is what I'm even going to build up and ask Vanessa. Local government, where are you from in order to support where you're running from? A woman is from this geographical region. She's married to someone from another geographical region. It becomes confusing if that ever comes to play to say, oh, I'm running for office to represent this particular region. How does one demystify that?
So again, this is one of the 5 gender bills that has been put forward. But I think it's a simple solution, and I think for the woman it should be seen as a benefit, not a curse, So I think it's your conviction where you decide to run. If you decide to go back to where you're originally from, and I think the way we conduct elections it needs to be from the grassroots. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So if you're a woman and you're from place A, but you married into place B or C, you should look at what convicts you to run for politics. If you look at place A and you're like, the maternal infant mortality rate is really high, and that is something that means a lot to me, and that's something I want to do, you start doing the work there, you get known in that place.
So that makes it optional as against a man being from one place.
One place.
So they can play to their advantage.
They can't. But I'm saying it should be seen as a benefit. Not as it stands right now, it's quite difficult. There are some women who have managed to run in their place of marriage, and some who've managed to run in their place of birth. But like Mr. Jide said, it comes down to who's behind you. It's a game of who's backing you. And I feel like a lot of times in that situation, it's not on the on the basis of gender. It's just about the forces that be behind you, so. But I think going forward, that's what this advocacy is about, is that you should be able to, personally, in my opinion, like I come from Edo State. Let's say for some strange reason I wanted to go into politics in the future, be it that I married, let's say, a man from, I don't know, Kaduna, for example. I wouldn't want to run for politics in Kaduna or in Edo State. I'd want to run in Abuja, because I'm not going to run to fix a place that I'm not always present. The things that shape my day-to-day life are the things that I want to fix. I don't know what turmoils and tribulations they're facing in Edo State. I don't know what's going on in Kaduna State, but I'm well aware of what I need and what I would do in Abuja. So I think that state of origin thing, it needs to be looked at for both male, both female, because a lot of times you hear they say, oh, the lawmakers live in Abuja and, they visit their states. So that should be some form of requirement. There needs to be, if it's a living requirement, if you need to be more present in the place where you're representing, I think, for everybody. So I don't think it should be determined by gender, age, whatever you want to call it. I think it should be a place where you can actually make a difference.
And let me push you a little bit forward on that. I mean, you've provided so much clarity, the passion, and the understanding of where you come from. So there's also this clever resistance that is there that women do face. So there's a saying of men have too much pride. When did you join politics? You want to go and start at president, vice president. You're even doing senator. You know, why can't you go down, all the way down, councillorship if it's possible? Why can't you be chief of staff to somebody be a political appointee to somebody one way or the other? Do you think sometimes, even when we speak about this in the most elite way, we are expecting women to be overreaching? And this is coming also to you. If they're overreaching to say, I want to start at this level or nothing.
I don't think so. So this is one of those things that I'm in two minds about. There's a lot of things that qualify people to be lawmakers. It could be just the trajectory you've taken in life, and looking at it, you can decide, I'm going to run for the senator position, and by all means go ahead. But I also do agree that politics is a game, and a lot of times women, we don't know how to play. So if you have started like as a career politician, so at the local government level, and working your way up, you would probably be more successful when you start playing for the higher stakes, because there's certain things you would understand better. There's certain ways you would play the game, quote unquote. So, but I don't think it's either or. I think it's a very personal decision. Like, imagine now a lot of senators are over 60 years old, right? Do you want a woman who's 60 years old to say, okay, I'm going to start working the ranks now? She's never going to get in the ranks. But in that 60 years, she's developed a lot of experience. She has made a lot of mistakes. She's learned from her mistakes. There are things that she can apply to the senator position that would not even be applicable to things that she would do at the local government. So I think it's different. It varies. It's not one rule for all. So I think it's a personal decision. If you believe that, you can work through the ranks, you have the time, and that would be the best use of your time, by all means, go in that direction. But if you feel that behind you have a wealth of experience that the country would benefit from, reach for the stars.
And stars many do reach for. I think about the FCT senatorial position. Senator Reti Kingbe did click it, right? Compared to the man who had stayed on for a while. That's referring to the services of, I'm trying to pick up his name, I can't see.
Philip Aduda.
Yes, Philip Aduda. He was on for about 24 years, if I'm not mistaken, in his role before there was that moment where she did take up. And many people say, maybe she's just, she walked, but then there was heavyweight luck on her side in getting that position. Do you think there's also that need to build from the scratch? I mean, just like Vanessa did say, about building from within and be sure what you want and be sure where you want to land.
Sincerely speaking, even if you go by the story of Ireti Kingebe, senator, she's failed severally. It wasn't her first time in 2023 to nick it. I think that was her fourth or fifth time contesting. So she's built a name. Many women cannot wait out to build a name, a recognizable name. See, I'm not a politician, but I'm a political scientist, and I do know that quite a number of people, my governor in Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, it was the third attempt that he nicked it. He joined, he contested first time, second time, he lost. He lost to Ajimobi. The two times Ajimobi was governor, he lost. It was on the third attempt that he won. So it's not even about having all the resources. You must have the patience. You must build the structure. You must have a brand. You must have a name. And that is the impatience that women... See, I quite agree. You were talking alongside of maybe women had pride and they should just... I've encouraged women also to start from lower rung of the ladder. We have several examples. People who cut their teeth, political teeth, from the lower rung of the ladder, because then you build experience, you build a name. People like Pauline Tallen, Dame Pauline Tallen, who later became deputy governor, became minister, she started from local government, and several others. In fact, at a recent workshop I attended, I alluded to Senator Itaena. If you know that man, he's a rugged politician, started from councillorship. He was a councillor, from councillor to the chairman of local government, to state house of assembly member, to house of reps, to senate. So he's built a name, he's built a brand. And Muslim Obanikoro from Lagos was chairman of the Tiosa local government in Lagos before he became, later on, became senator and then minister of state for defense. So there are bouquet of examples you can give that, particularly for women, it is highly recommended that you start from the lower rung so that you understand the intrigues. There's a popular saying that experience is not bought in the market. You can't merchandise it. You can't order it online. It's not available on Google. You can only read and experience. That's why I call it experience, what you went through. If you didn't go through and you don't have a godfather, you are not a wife of a governor. The wife of former governor of Abia State is there in House of Reps. I think, was it, I don't know, Khadijat Buka Storm. I think she even, there is one, maybe she's the same woman who resigned her ministerial nomination to go to the House of Reps. It's her preference. We've had the wife of former governor of Niger State, who also came to Senate, I think, at some point. So if you do not belong to this elite class of husbands with deep pockets who can back you up, then you must understand your limitation. And what limitation? You do not have the war chest and you don't have the network. The popular saying is that your network will determine your net worth. So if you don't have old boys association, you don't have
these old boys. Maybe I should change my own.
It's not just about old boys. There are also old girls, but you know there are also business associates. There are also even ability to fundraise. I've been involved in capacity building for women, and I've done a lot of work for different women groups. In the lead up to 2023 election, I was in the 6th geopolitical zone building capacity of female candidates. And I told them, see, what did Obama do? Obama was a son of a poor man, not really a rich man. His father was from Kenya. He was in the state Congress. He has a name. He was a state senator in Chicago before he became a senator at the federal level. And he gave a speech which turned his destiny around. And from there, he looked at his options. How do I raise billions of dollars that I would need to successfully win? Being a black man, you know, it was an uphill task. It has never been done. I recall the day of inauguration of Barack Obama. This guy, Reverend Jesse Jackson, was weeping. Not shed. He was weeping. He said he never knew he would live to see a day that a black man would be in a White House. They deliberately call it White House. It is meant for the white. And for over 200 years, it was for the white. But what did Obama do different? He to get the nomination, he gave a very inspiring speech. The establishment were rooting for him. But he realized he put his skills, not as a lawyer, but as a grassroots mobilizer, you know, to test and start raising $5, $10, $50 from ordinary citizens. And he fundraised higher than his co-contestants in the Republican Party. I think it was
Democratic Party.
No, in the Republican, I think it was this senator. Is he not late now? That was his first. John McCain. And despite being a black man married to a black woman, from an African country. All the odds were stacked against him. And it was like, these old billions will go down the drain. But do you know, as at that time, I was working with an American-based organization, International Foundation for Electoral Systems, and we're at USAID, and they always gather us to do the mock voting and all of that. And I was like, even praying for somebody in the US who doesn't know me, I said, well, I hope this man will break the glass ceiling. And he did. Not just once, twice. He did. And that is the power of conviction. But again, what is your vision? Do you think politics is a sprint? Is an 100 meters dash? Not for man, not for a woman. Everyone you must tell your conviction. I know your story, Femi. You understand? You took a bullet to start this. I mean, you were having your monthly paycheck and all of that. You rose through the ranks. You were a name. You had a brand. But you said, I want to do something for myself. That's the way politics is also. See, people, I gave you an example of people who have failed severally. Yet, because they didn't lose their vision, they lost money, they lost time, they lost friends, they lost so many things, but they never lost their vision. And it paid off eventually. So the bottom line is that women need to be encouraged. The patriarchy and other variables that have been working against them, issue of violence, money in politics, issue of the law, and all of that. Yes, we can tinker with all of that, but don't think even with all of those factors removed, all those cleared, that you have it easy.
No.
That's why if we are able to get this reserve seat or special seat, true, it will just be a beginning point, because I also understand that this special seat though is for a 4 electoral cycle. So it's not ad infinitum. After 16 years, the status quo will remain. And don't think 16 years is a very long time.
Oh no, it's not. In politics,
you have
that
for 16 years, and then you've moved this high, and then in the 5th election, you are even struggling to see where are they. So the bottom line is to stay true your conviction, to encourage women to start from lower rung of the ladder so that they can gain confidence, they can master the intrigues of politics. Because truly speaking, politics is a game of intrigues. And it's not just about singling out a woman or singling out a Senator Nkechi Nwogu from Abia State won 3 consecutive times as a senator. Look at Anambra has been producing consistently women senator. What did they do? This woman, Stella, the one that was Stella Odua, then the joy of the Senate, that was also, Anambra has been producing female senator. How did they do it? We have also even in Southwest, someone from Mulikat Adeola rose to become the majority leader of House of Reps, and she has documented her experience. I have been involved in our stories. There was a book project. I contributed a chapter around 2007, which gathered Ambassador Ikoyo Toyo spearheaded. I had a chapter in that book. So the experiences of people like Nkoyo
are valid enough to
people
be
like
studied.
Senator Sumonu, Monsura Sumonu, who was the first female speaker of Oyo State House of Assembly since that state since Western Region. She was the first female speaker and rose to become also the first female senator from Oyo State. These are people who broke the glass ceiling. And these are people that needs to mentor, today's politicians. Because what I see with the millennials and the Gen Zs is that immediacy. It has to be now. I can't wait 3-4 electoral cycles to gain victory. It has to be now. Otherwise, I was rigged out. If I don't win, I was rigged out. It's not so. You are not rigged out. It's just that some women and some men anyway, don't even know how to build on their social capital. that even when you don't have the deepest pocket, you can use your social capital. Your network can bail you out.
Bail you out,
People can volunteer. People can volunteer for you, even without you paying them. They can volunteer and say, we believe in your vision. Don't pay us. We will be your party agents. We will mobilize. We will be your canvassers. How many people did Obama pay, to win the presidency?
And I understand what you're saying, and it's a lot to take in when one thinks about how you eventually arrive and how you arrive and the scars and every other thing that you have to take on. Just as we start to round off, I think about social lynching that women do go through. I mean, we're analyzing for a woman that has finally decided that I'll go through the ranks or go through the experience and see where it goes. But there are some that the best of their ambition ends on Twitter. When social lynching starts, it also ends from the family name, where the family of husband say, you want to go and do night meeting in this house. I mean, these are some of the elements. What's your thoughts about social lynching, especially the undocumented ones, but that do go on?
I think this is a lot to unpack, but I would say, so let's start with the late night meetings, for example. So let's say my husband decides he wants to run for politics and there are a lot of late night meetings. Why don't I get to have a say to say, I don't like you going out at night, whether it's to meetings or whatever? But then he will say to me, it's imperative, this is when politics is done, right? And I'm going to say, go ahead, go get us that ticket, whatever. So let's now flip the script. I want to run for politics, but what, a woman's not supposed to be out at night? But I'm doing the same thing as you. I'm going to meetings because guess what? You said politics is run at night. So in order to play the game, I need to be in the game. But I think it's a matter of re-strategizing. It's up to political parties, godfathers, to say, if we want women to participate, and because society believes that, a woman should not participate in late night closed door meetings, then maybe they need to have meetings during the day, whatever. Or it can also be a thing of, we advocate that if it's okay, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Because why is it that as a wife, you tell me you're going to late night political meetings or whatever, I should be okay with that? It's fantastic. You're a man. It's such a double standard. Because why can't I be going to my late night meetings for exactly what every other man going to these late night meetings is going for? Why do I need to be labeled a prostitute or a whore or, whatever? And then it also makes us pause and think, as a woman, I'm going to these late night meetings with a lot of men. So it raises the question, why don't other men think I should be safe around other men?
Okay, Mr. Jide, let me just let you respond to it if you can.
Well, social lynching, my own perspective would be, it's not limited to women. Femi, did you hear Mr. President when he went to Nasarawa last week, calling opposition elements political IDPs? You heard him. You are describing your fellow politicians because they disagree with you. You're calling them political IDPs and that they should not be taken serious. Well, so whatever it is, you must brace yourself up. The odds are always tough in politics. Maybe that's why I've never been registered as a member of a party.
You can't go through the odds?
I can't. And if you can't stand the heat, don't go near the kitchen. So I know they trade in insult, they trade in mudslinging. Did you observe the last Edo governorship election last year? The insult battering between Oshiomhole and Obaseki at every turn.
It comes with the terrain, I presume.
And you had Mr. President also last week. Was it last week or when he went to Benue? He said, they ate me shit. but I'm their president. He said they hate me like shit, but I don't give a damn. They will call, even in his, go and check Mr. President's June 12th speech at the joint session.
Where he
of the
talked
National
about
Assembly.
the PDP and the
No,
kind
he
of
was even talking about that the members of the National Assembly should not think too deeply about being called names. You know, people call them rubber stamp, call them all weaklings and all of that. He said, look, in politics, you must brace up. Wike has also said it time and again in his live telecast. He said, if you cannot bear insults, don't come into politics. Here, it's a game of betrayal. It's a game of intrigues. It's a game of insult. Even what he didn't do, they would label you as having done. They can do a fresh CV for you and post it on internet to say you stole your certificate. You never see. That is, and it's not like singling out a woman or women politician. It's worse for men. They call them all manner of stuff. Imagine being called a forger, a drug baron, a drug addict. And they will say with every sense of responsibility. In fact, you will believe them when you see the caliber of people trading in that kind of insult. And you wonder, and I've seen, I was on AIT years back. I would not mention the person who was trading in the insult. It was a governorship candidate who eventually won. And he was saying, oh, this national commissioner, I know her. She has collected money from opposition. They've bribed her. We are going to... I said, so they threw the question at me. I said, well, if he has the evidence, he should go to the anti-corruption agencies and then go to court to say you've collected. Did you know, I never knew the woman who was being labeled and maligned was watching live from Port Harcourt. The moment we finished, we haven't left the studio. When she called me and said, Jide, don't worry. I know you put up a defense for me, but let them say, that is politician, but we meet in court. Politicians will trade in fake news and still stand by that fake news, even in the face of contrary evidence. That it comes with it. And so, whether you're a man, a woman, a young, a old person, you want to do politics, first develop a thick skin that it comes with and it's not only in Nigeria. I followed the last presidential election in US, was Donald Trump was there no two assassination attempts on his life? One, it is here. Mm-hmm. And people say, oh, don't mind it, he made it up. Somebody died in the course of that. But they then look at the trading of insult between this candidate, what is her name, that was represented, the Vice President
Kamala
Harris and Donald Trump. What name did Donald Trump not call Kamala Harris? Dumb, foolish, stupid, star. And I was straight. I was shocked. I said, in US, you are trading this kind of insult on live TV. The gloves were off. The gloves were off. And that is the bastion of democracy. So if it happens in US and you, because you are a woman in Nigeria, say, oh, they are calling me names. They are doing... it comes with it. If you cannot stand it, being called prostitute, being called drug addict, they will say you are gay, you are a lesbian, you are this, you are that. But stay focused because they want to distract you. The moment you are distracted, you lose focus and they gain victory. And then when you go to court, they wear you out in court. The court in Nigeria, 20 years, the case is still being adjourned and adjourned and adjourned. Meanwhile, you have won. The opponent that you are trying to call to order will have won, made money to even get senior lawyers that will checkmate you at the court. So the whole package is unsettling. It's unsettling for either the men or the women. But we need to protect our women.
Yes.
Which is why we are here. This is why we are making this advocacy that, yes, we know it comes with the gain. It's a gain. I've always castigated this use of Machiavellian principle of the end justifies
The means.
the means, and the end justifies the means. And a few weeks back, I wrote in my column what Mahatma Gandhi. In that piece, I was talking about ethical revolution, that we need to have ethical revolution, and I went into seven social sins by Mahatma Gandhi, and I tried to analyze. He talks about politics without principle. That was in the 60s.
Yes.
He talked about politics without principle. Even did he not lose 2 of his children? The same Mahatma Gandhi. Remember, Indira Gandhi was assassinated, Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated, even though their father was never a prime minister. But he lost two children to politics, even when they were prime minister. It tells you how violent politics
can be
globally,
and it is
globally.
Actually.
So it is. We just need to protect and encourage women in reforming the laws, in removing the social barriers, including what you are saying about what is it again? The social lynching. We need to moderate it. Fortunately, we have what is called Cybercrime Act in place now. So if anybody cyber lynch or lynch you on the social media, you have a right to seek redress. But again, it comes at a huge cost.
Yes,
because it's not prompt, and you may just get honestly distracted. Look at the Natasha and Akpabio saga.
Let's unlock that.
No. It's just a reference point that I'm not apportioning blame. I'm only saying, even when you look at how the netizens have taken sides in the is it conflict we want to, or the imbroglio, you will see a lot of name calling, either on the part of those who are in support
on
of
both sides, actually.
On both sides. So, but will you resign because of that and say, oh, I can't take this anymore, I'm resigning my senatorial stuff? You have to live through it.
Live through it. Okay, let's leave it at that. But I would like to, just to hear from you as we conclude, because we're really pressing into this issue. Your final thoughts on women participation in politics. Just your points on this.
So again, I think we have a long way to go, but at least let's make a start. So we are doing a lot of work as the various gender organizations, from advocacy. But I think one thing that we need to take away is that we need strong male allyship. It is very integral to our the path we're trying to forge.
A big thanks to you. Of course, Vanessa Udigbe Gregory is an accomplished sustainable development professional with a proven track record in leading impactful programs. And yes, she does advocate advancing gender equity. She's been doing that for some years and championing women's rights. A big thank you to you for joining in. Chidi Ojo, as you know him, quite versatile. He's worked across quite a number of development sector organizations. And yes, he's been on this from 1998. He has continued to provide his teaching, his experience, and of course, his viewpoint towards democracy development in the country. And yes, we are grateful that you joined us today during the means of this conversation.
My pleasure.
All right, and that's it for us for this very episode. Yes, matters that do matter. I do hope you've picked up points that really do matter. We're grateful to you. We've received good support from the HBS Eric Paul Foundation in doing this. Of course, they help everybody understand accountability in various sectors that would help our national development as much as we can. And yes, this very, very episode has been supported through the partnership of Fine Radio Co. and produced by Vibing Brands, distributed by Volume Pods as much as they can. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening in. And yes, we do like to read your comments and share with some of our guests as well. And of course, you engage on your viewpoints. We're always very much welcome for you to do so. Thank you so much for all you do. And that's it for me. I'm Femi D. Amile.